Hey guys, Rob John Webb, and welcome to this week's lesson where we're going to dive into the arpeggio within Ableton. There's a load of different arpeggio patterns that you can use. There's countless, to be honest. And there's some great third-party ones as well, but we're just going to focus on a couple within the arpeggiator, within the MIDI effects rack within Ableton. So far on the track, we've done the bass line, we've done the drums, we've mixed, a variety of classic drum sounds together to create an authentic 80s sort of beat. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in an arp to give the track a little bit of character and a bit of colour. And it's one thing that helps the track all the time is when it's kind of sounding a bit flat and it's just a bit plodding along. The good thing is to get an arpeggio in there, add some delay and things like that, and just it really brightens the track up. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. So the important thing about arpeggios sounds when you're using an arpeggio is to try and get a poly sound, a short sort of poly sound. Long pads, Rhodes, organs, things that are, sustainable notes don't generally do very well with an arpeggio. They can do if you take the decay and the cutoff down. But generally, arpeggios are great for poly sounds, polysynths, stab saws, things like that. Anything that's kind of you can cut off and make a short. So that's just a tip there. So when you're experimenting after you've done this, don't waste your time trying to arpeggiate a pad and things like that, because although it does work, it's not ideal for what we're going to do. So we're going to hit the ground running with this, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's go. Right, so we've got that. So what we need to do is kind of find a sound that goes over that we can make brighten the track up, make it funky, and just lift the whole track up. So what we do first is we get an arpeggio. First, I'm just going to show you a quick tip on the arpeggio. So I'm going to bring in the Bach 16th, right? And I'm going to give you the very basics of this. And then I'm going to go to instruments, and in sampler, there is a sound called the Glide Synth Lead 2. Doesn't matter why I'm using this, it's just a good sound to use for the arpeggio. So it's got like if I just take the arp off and play the sound natural, it's got a glide on each note like a portamento, so the sound bends each time. And we discussed this in the previous lesson, I think, with the bass. So I'm going to put on the Bach 16 here. So with the Bach 16th, all of the settings in here are the same in all of the arpeggios within the arpeggiator. You've got all these different styles. You've got up, down, down, up, converge, etc. And I'm just going to show you a very basic. So if you hold down the notes like this, it's just going to go one all the way. So because that, if you look at the setting, it's on steps 1. What that means is octaves. So how many octaves you want it to play. So if I go to step 2, see what I mean? So what we're going to do is we are going to leave it at steps 1, go to diverge, and just, you recognise that? Frankie Knuckles, Your Love. So using this and just playing simple notes with the Bach 16th with the pattern. So if I go to here, step 1, go to step 2. There you go, see? It gets higher and higher. So you want to go to a third step. You get higher. So what we want to do is, just as I say, experiment with the different ones and listen to the different tonalities and the different melodies that come out of it. Usually, diverge is a good one. Up and down are usually the best. Things like random, and that like kind of, it's not ideal for electronic music in a sense unless you're being really experimental, because you're just going to end up going down a path that you don't know. That's great if you want to do that kind of thing, but if we want to make predictable dance music and so forth, then random's the best one to, don't avoid it. Chord triggers, where you hold down, it plays the chord, which is okay, if you want to do that sort of thing, but I'm not keen on that one myself. So yeah, pinky up is just a... So, they're the very basics of it. So obviously gate is when it cuts off. So if I hold this down now and take gate down to 15, it's almost like a decay, like a cut off. what I mean? And then you've got your rate. So obviously, if we was to play a drum here, I'm just going to take off the bass line there, just to keep it simplified for now. If we turn the rate down, it's going to slow, it's going to stutter, it's going to go do, 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 like that. So go up to 112, 116. So I mean, that instantly brings it to life when you just start playing a few notes together. You hold down the notes. That's the important thing on an arp. So if you hold down the chord of C major, it just instantly brings it to life, doesn't it? So that's the Bach 16th, but we're going to replace that with the ubiquitous one. And we're going to put this down here. And what we're going to do, because my bass line is in C minor, right, which is in basically the C, it's just in the C notes, and it's got an F and a G. It's almost in, let me just double check that there, let's see. So my bass is in C and F, so let's have a look at that. And there's a B flat in there, A sharp, and the F and the G. So it's basically in the C minor, in the C blues scale, which we did the other week, which I changed mine to that. So whatever your bass is in, they're the notes to hit, whatever chord, they're the notes to hit for your arpeggio, okay? So that it moves in the same key and it's in the same fashion. So we're going to go to tab. I'm going to stick some delay over on this on the send there. Put some reverb on just to give it a bit more colour. And then what we're going to do is on the ubiquitous one, we are going to change this to up down. And I'm going to keep the step. I'm going to put the step on 1 like this, right? Now, when I'm going to play the notes here, I'm going to play the C, the D sharp, the F, the G, and the A sharp, the B flat, and I'm just going to maneuver across the keyboard, okay? And I'm going to come up with a pattern like so, and then we're going to go from there. So let's press play. Let's mess about. That's holding it down. So what I'm doing there is I'm holding down the G, the E, the C, and the D sharp. And then what we can do throughout this, once we've done this, so if I press record now, if I just bring back the metronome here and the timeline here, I'm just going to copy over 2 of these, just 2 more of these, right? So I've got 4. And I'm going to hit record here, and I'm going to play the notes in, and then we're going to do some filtering on it. So here goes. Let's just try this. And there you go. So let's just have a look at this pattern here. As you can see, I've held notes down for, a certain amount of length of time, but all I'm doing is playing the notes that the bass line has got so that it keeps within the same pattern. And if you can see here, look, they're all just in the lower end. I'm holding down the C, pretty just jittering from 1 and bouncing because the delay's on. And the arpeggio is set to the setting it is, the up, down one, down, up. Any note I play within the C minor chord, or any note that you will play, will just go perfectly well with whatever bass pattern you've got, as long as you hit the right notes. So then, we've got this. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit because it's quite dominant. So that is probably the best way to use the arpeggio if you want to get rhythmic with it and kind of have a lot of moving about patterns, but you don't want to use the random, as I say. It's kind of because the random will throw you off guard. So what we want to do now with this, obviously this glide synth sound, if you look in here, we've got the filter. So what we could do is manipulate the filter within this now. So we can, go to our drop down here, look at the glide synth, and then look in here for filter. So I'm going to look for it here. I could do this with my dial, but I just want to make sure the filter frequency. I just want to show you that I can do it without the dial as well on a keyboard. So we're going to drop it down. As you can see, it's moving here now. Look. You don't want it to kick in until it gets to the main track So, you can get creative with the filter there, and you can move it up and down so that it doesn't sound boring and static. That's the, one of the good things about it. So with regards to, moving the things about on the Ubiquitous plugin itself. So for example, you want to automate something on there, you go back to here, go to Ubiquitous. It's the same process. Let's start automating the gate on here. So let's just get the gate up. And let's just drop it slightly. Let's kind of have it coming in about 25. Get higher and higher. And then back to 50. Just doing little things like that where you kind of releasing the gate so it spreads and becomes like, more, moving about, I suppose is the word I'm looking for. Just becomes more flexible. So have a go at some of the different, different arpeggios within here. You've got all these different ones. Drag them in, mess about with the styles. Groove, for example, groove. You don't really want to put groove on because if I just solo this, if you put groove, keep it straight, which means it's ticka, 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 ticka. If you put swing on it, it's going to go like this. Stutters. 32 is not bad. But obviously, it's generally for electronic music, you want to keep it on straight and just keep it, rhythmically locked in. And then, obviously, whichever key you're in. So we're in C, so that's fine by me. So if we change it to a minor, it's going to change to the key of C minor and D minor, so on and so on. So we're going to keep it on shift, just natural as we play it. So there's the arpeggio that we've got for this track. I'll probably experiment with this more before the next session. I'll probably change a few of the settings of the filter on this, before we get to the next session, which will probably do stuff like pads and more synth sounds to build this up into a, like I say, an early 80s electro funk sort of thing with a modern twist. That's where this sort of arpeggio style comes into that. So that's it for this session, guys. Go and experiment and remember to use poly sort of sounds, shorter sounds. So let's have a look in the bank, for example. Those sort of sounds are not really, they're a bit harsh on the ears. So bass sounds are the best thing to use, and you go kind of up the octave, but not live bass. I'm talking synth bass. So if we go into analog, or just go into the bass file itself, get sounds that are really rounded off. So I'm trying to find one. Let me find a sound. Let me go to analog again. Get to bass. Let me just look in here and get some sort of something like that. Right, let's try that, and I'm just going to replace this with that for a second and see what happens. It might not work. It's a little bit sort of quite get there, but you want some sort of reso sort of round sound. Let's go for the square pure bass, the classic pure square bass. It works. So that works, but obviously I'm not going to use that one. But yeah, as I say, experiment with as many sort of round poly sort of sounds as you possibly can. and see how you come up with, see what you come up with, and go from there. So that's it this week. The arpeggio, we've gone through this, a couple of them, experiment with them, and then let me know what you get up to and send me your stuff. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next session.